It's time for your next favorite episode of the Integratedness Podcast with Jason and Jolene.
You know what, Jolene?
What?
I'm pissed off and mad about it.
Yeah!
I'm pissed off and mad about it. This week on the Integratedness Podcast with Jason and Jolene, I'm Jason, by the way.
And I'm Jolene. And Jason, anger is a natural human emotion that can range from mild irritation to intense rage. Where would you rate yourself on that scale?
Pretty low, I think. There was a time in my life where I think I would have sat around the intense rage part for a good decade or so. Because I was described at one point as an angry young man.
Oh, well, that's because it's an adaptive response to threats, inspiring aggressive feelings and behaviors that help us fight and defend ourselves.
Ooh. Well, that makes sense, because, when the saber-toothed tiger was coming to eat you on the plane and you were just trying to go out and get dinner for your family, I could understand getting pretty irritated by that.
That's because some anger is necessary for survival. It can be triggered by perceived provocation, hurt, or threat, and it can manifest physically through increased blood pressure, rapid heartbeat, flushed face, and tense muscles.
Ooh.
This is why it looks like you need to poop right now.
That's right.
This comes up so much in my sessions. Where do you feel this in the body? People with low back pain. I'm like, how angry are you? Where is your anger going, right? Expression of anger. People who get chronic headaches and chronic back pain, a lot of times there is anger and resentment not being expressed, right?
Yes.
Anger is an activation emotion. It needs physical outlet. It needs to get your heart rate going up. You cannot meditate out of anger. I tell people this. Don't. You can meditate and be in stillness for sadness. Make space for sadness to sneak out of the closet. Anger is out of the closet and it's trashing the room.
Yeah.
You need to get it the fuck out. So this is where people will run, they'll box, they will dance around. Like when my kids are being like very playful, kicking soccer balls and like have an aggressive form of play, that is a discomfort they're working out.
For sure.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely. So for yourself, you were described as an angry child.
Angry young man.
Angry
I was a
young
happy
man.
child.
Oh!
And then I became an angry young man.
Damn it. Testosterone to blame.
Well, no, it was after finding out being adopted and then my dad died and all that. You get a little bit pissed off.
Yeah. Oh, you weren't a young man then. You were a man.
Well, the woman that described me was like 65 and I was like 20.
She was an old hag.
She was an old hag. So it was in a poetry class.
Oh.
So she thought my poetry was angry and that I was an angry young man. And it was. I wrote dark stuff then because I was working through some shit.
But is that not a great expression of emotion?
I like to think it's a great expression of emotion.
Just like we use humor and we can, make satires of stuff. You can listen to any kind of metal music or whatever. Like you can go dark to express that.
That's how you do it. That's how I know how I always did.
Yeah.
Right? And still do.
Yeah.
If I'm having a shitty ass day, I'm going to watch like a violent action movie because it feels satisfying.
Right?
Because they're shooting the people I can't.
You can't just cut somebody's fingers off.
No.
Yeah. Okay. For myself, anger didn't really fit in my profile growing up. I definitely was not I was always told oh, you were such a good baby, I definitely I get angry now, and my worry about my anger is when I snap, it's you can kind of push me to a point and I have a no return zone in terms of I don't want to say forgiveness because I think that's a little extreme, but there is definitely, I will tolerate a lot until I don't.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's kind of that's a snap point for me, and not just in the expression of anger, but also the consequence of what that brings, because I will end relationships, I will walk away from situations, I will be done.
Which I think, so do you think that's a healthy response?
Yeah, so I think
for
for me it's a healthy response because I've integrated it with so many other pieces of growth and awareness and things like that. I remember working with somebody who utilized harsh boundaries and harsh cutoffs as a way to protect self and not allow for integration of forgiveness and repair and all those things. So we had hard conversations around like, okay, listen, you keep shutting the door on lots of different people. However, you're actually preventing yourself from a repair moment here, from some of your responsibility in the dynamic and different things like that, right? So really cool points to be, and I absolutely see where, you know, in previous areas of my life, all of those places, you know, played out in my less than desirable qualities, right? So my current day self, I think it's a accurate representation of like conscious work. Prior to that, no, it was, you know, probably an avoidance of discomfort, lack of belief other people will change or participate in that way, protection-based, lots of those kinds of things.
Yeah, interesting.
Right? Yeah.
That's good, yeah, because I think it is good to know when to get mad and when to let that anger be almost like a strength.
Yeah.
But there are people who they just get mad like all the time at everything. And then it's destructive.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, you know, looking at somebody who has a really low frustration tolerance and everything is like that. And I know I get to times in my life when my life is overwhelming and busy, my kids will see me less patient.
Yeah.
That's what that looks like. It doesn't always look like I'm mad, but I'm definitely shorter fused. And some people do just storm around with a really angry, aggressive presence, which is more protective than anything. Honestly, we know that. We've talked about
it's an armor.
Yeah. We've talked about how people need to do that to protect self, right? In terms of my family life growing up, what did anger mean to me? My mom really wasn't an angry person, but we knew when we pissed her off. You know, like we were like, ooh, we pushed mom there. And then it was like, you know, retreat, repair. So that was always really noticeable with her. And that was like a behavior shift. My kids, I don't feel like have that effect at all. Like we knew when my mom swore, it was a breaking point. My kids hear me swear a lot, so they don't really know that's a breaking point, right? Yeah. Very different in how all that works. Some of that is social conditioning and probably, we have different ways of being now, I think. My dad, on the other hand, he would kind of have this like snap rage that would come out. Never at people, more so at himself. He had a stroke when he was like 12 years old. So he was paralyzed on the whole right side of his body. Mm-hmm. That was a brain injury, which again, you don't realize until much later, but there's emotional regulation issues, all that stuff that would have impacted that. There was also profound grief in his life, pain. There was a lot of chronic pain and frustration of like not being, you know, able to do things he wanted to do, but he was so adaptive. You would have never known he was somebody with that kind of a disability, right? Okay. But because of that, like he would have moments where like, you know, he'd be trying to tie his shoe and his one hand, we called it gimpy, right? Mm-hmm. His one hand maybe wasn't participating as well. And like if a whole bunch of things had lined up that day to frustrate him, that was it. And, you know, I remember one time, I think he was like tying his boot or something on the stair and he like smashed his head into the wall. And it like dented the wall, right? Yeah. And it was more for him, it was those moments of self-frustration. Like I said, they were never directed at us. We never felt threatened by him. But I remember my response to witnessing that would be feeling helpless. I would instantly feel really sad sad and bad for him because I didn't like seeing him in distress like that. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
I do totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So some of our response to anger is like, how does it feel for us when we see other people angry? And if we've had people be abusive to us, what is our response to it? Do we harden? You know, my kids all respond very different to some of my anger or my rules or things like that. And I have one kid who protects herself by appearing non-impacted by it, which can really pick my ass sometimes. And I see this like would look like challenging behavior. And it's also kind of her way of just like staying in power. She's probably like really scared on the inside, but she would not show that to me. Right. And then sometimes laugh. Right. And you can think of people who might do that. Right. Like if they get in trouble by somebody or whatever. Right. Like, so it's really interesting to observe how you may have interacted with anger in the past, what that consequence or what the threat to you may have been, and then how that then impacts your expression of anger. I have so many clients that don't make space for anger because of how it impacted them, right? And I I help people get angry because it deserves to be on the playground just as much as every other emotion.
It's a natural response. It's in our
absolutely
DNA
is.
as humans. Like you were reading out there in terms of a protection mechanism. It can help push you through moments for survival. Like you need it. It just needs to be controlled.
Yes, it is a performance emotion, right? So I love when my clients come in and they finally reach a point where they're mad. They are revved up about a time that they were assaulted or an injustice that happened at work. And instead of being victimized, they switch and they all of a sudden go, oh my God, yeah, that was not okay. And how dare my colleague not do this?
That.
How dare my friends not protect me in that moment? What the hell? Why did that police officer not do such and such?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the self-blame and the shame turns out, and this is not projecting responsibility onto other people. This is actually allowing yourself to view where you may have truly been wronged and deserved differently.
Yeah.
That is a profound moment in somebody's healing of an experience, right?
Huge.
It's really cool. So I love when you started this episode being like, I'm so pissed off. I'm like, yes, I love it. I love it when Kevin tells me that's something I've done pissed him off because he doesn't give me that kind of feedback. He will hold that, manage it on his own, doesn't really see a ton of productivity that can come from expressing something where, and that's some of his stuff, right? And for me, I'm just like, I want to know when something's pissed you off so I can do better. Like, I love that. Right? Which is so confusing to someone too, right?
Yeah, and if you can express it instead of just being like, Jesus fucking Christ, and you pick something up and you slam it down on the table and you knock, that's not a constructive way. But if you can go like, you know what, that really pissed me off.
Yeah. My ex got angry all the time. I was used to a lot of anger and I have no problem getting angry back. And I love a healthy dynamic of, I want to hear when something doesn't feel good because I will express when something doesn't feel good for me. I want the same feedback back because I'm not perfect. And there are times where I've probably done something that is like, pissed him off or this or that. I love hearing that because I now know that he feels comfortable enough to share that with me, which means I've created enough trusting space for him to do that.
Yeah, where he feels comfortable in expressing
that I'm not
emotion.
going to reject him, that I am not going to lose my lid and then create a bigger issue from it, right? Because that's often why people won't express that is if they've had people in their past that have taken that and ran with it and it's turned into a huge thing, they'll choose not to express it because people's behavior is so unpredictable. And the more unpredictable experiences we've had expressing those things, the least likely we're going to do it.
Yeah.
So one of the things I can offer there is, stability in terms of my response, right? That's great.
I had both my parents were different that way. Like with Dad, I could get mad about something and we would talk it out and he would tell me when he's mad at something that I did. But with Mom, you try to express something and she'd just go off the handle on it. Right. And so it just became it became a pattern in my life. It's like, well, you know what? I'm not obviously then going to say anything because there's no point.
Yeah.
There's no point. It's just going to be turned into, my problem.
Yeah. I watch my kids toy with this dynamic every single day, right? They are playing around with all sorts of emotions. And again, when you have two inconsistent parents that way, it's hard to know where you can try certain things or let certain things out. And you learn I can't express this there, but I can express it here. And they're trying to figure things out too, right? And putting boundaries on things you are allowed to be angry about this. Absolutely. But you can't behave like that.
Yeah, that's an inappropriate way to respond.
Yeah, so those are big teachable moments around things. I validate emotion. I allow for the appropriateness of you were right to feel that way. Or in last episode when I said my one kid was like, you're so much nicer to other kids than us. And I was like, I can see how that would look that way. Because I was joking with them here about something I probably would have given you the grill about, right?
Yeah. But it's different dynamic.
Absolutely, right? And just pointing out the accuracy of their observation, but then explaining why it might be different, right? Yeah. And I think, anger is sourced from, it's a secondary emotion. It is usually fed from something else. Sadness, embarrassment. You trip on the stairs in front of people, you get embarrassed, you kick the stair. Well, no, you're embarrassed. You're not angry.
Yeah.
Right? But anger is the first bodyguard that can show up and protect us in moments of vulnerability. Typically, sadness, hurt, shame, grief are underneath. Jealousy are underneath.
Yeah,
anger.
Resentment.
Yeah.
All that.
So when we help people. So, I often Use a lot of physical outlets. I get people to color. I get people to move their body when they're processing anger. Red is often a color that's associated with anger, which then gets me thinking about the energy systems, and red being more linked to the root chakra area, which is again around a lot of safety, right? Anger is an expression of fear, essentially, and probably that our safety is sacrificed to some degree. Safety in connection, safety in physical presence, safety in whatever, survival.
Yeah.
Right?
I think so. I think that's why, like, a lot of the anger we're seeing in society is based on fear. Because
Yeah.
things are changing, morals are changing, societals are shifting. There's a portion of the population that doesn't like that, and so it scares them, so they get mad. And they start, using racism and hate to express themselves. Lack of control.
Lack of control is often linked to anger. So if we were to look at how pop culture or media has influenced our opinion of anger, our acceptance of it, because sometimes we will accept it. We will accept that, oh, that's who that person is.
Yeah.
Can you think of any characters in general that really stand out as oh yeah, that was the angry character in that show?
The Incredible Hulk.
Oh, yeah.
He was a total expression. That was the whole thing. Whenever David Banner would become angered or outraged, he would turn into the Incredible Hulk.
That's right. Yeah.
And his whole story arc over all the years was learning how to control it so he could be in Hulk form, but still have David Banner's intelligence and everything like that.
Yeah.
How's that for nerding?
How is that for nerding? Yeah, that's right. Trying to think of some other shows where we really kind of normalized.
Adam Sandler's humor in his early days was very... He'd be the character would always get angry, and it would be the funny things that he would do when he was mad. Chris Farley,
oh my God.
Right?
Chris Farley. Yeah, that's a huge one, right? Oh my gosh, Chris Farley. And now you can zoom out and be like, oh man, the pain's under this, right?
Yeah.
That's something we didn't talk about in the humor episode is, just because somebody uses humor and seems to be jovial and happy all the time does not mean they are happy and content and aligned inside.
Well, Robin Williams.
Right. That's the exact person I was talking about. Yeah, Jim Carrey.
Even a lot.
About his experiences.
Ryan Reynolds is he deals with anxiety and depression, and that feels a lot of his humor.
I can see that. Yeah, for sure. And his is a lot of he reminds me of the annoying little brother that's trying to hang out with everybody. If you look at his characters, it's really just an extension of him. Yeah. Right? Yeah. He's genius in how he does it all. But yeah, it's kind of just an extension of him. Looking at some of these pieces and who typically gets, the villain roles or the angry roles. Do we have a specific image or body type or, redheads, for example? I am not a natural redhead, but they would always get, critiqued for being the hotheads.
Yeah, the fiery ones.
Yeah. So, can you think of any other examples of that? Maybe the grumpy old man.
Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
He did that really, really well. He got more into the unhinged thing. Harrison Ford's kind of, as he's gotten older, become kind of the curmudgeon-y sort of character. Yeah. Grumpy, older guy. And I think that's a bit of who he is, too. Yeah. I think things like that. But, I mean, most of them aren't portrayed in, a really bad... they're not, bad people. No, and they're not destructive.
We're kind of taught to accept them how they are.
Yeah. Which I think, in a way... can be good.
Yeah.
Especially when you see those characters. I think of the show Shrinking that Harrison Ford's in right now. And his character is goes through this arc. So you see him, he is kind of the curmudgeon-y, cranky old guy, but you learn why, and then you see him working through it. And I think that's being portrayed a lot more in a realistic and healthy way, and showing how people can work through this kind of stuff. Whereas I think back in the days of say Chris Farley's humor, where he was just being mad and stuff like that, he was just the angry fat guy.
Yeah, and I think for women, we are afraid to express anger because it makes us look, histrionic and emotional and hard to manage and being difficult. So that's the difficulty with, I think, women expressing anger in a sense. Men, I think, societally have trouble expressing anger because it's their go-to, I think, in a lot of ways. It's the first one that's kind of socially, societally allowed. But I actually work with a ton of men who are afraid to express anger because it meant rejection for them. And
it's now portrayed as being toxic.
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And you don't want to be the toxic male, like, you know what I mean?
Well, and there's a lot of pressure for men to be providers, men to have it together. And if you get angry, there's a perception you don't have it together.
Yes.
You're not in control. So I would actually say high value men who have done good work, even like when you think about yourself and the work you've done and how conflicting it would be to get very angry about something necessarily, that you're like, I shouldn't be like this anymore. I'm trying not to lose my lid. I'm trying not to see red. These are the things I've been working on, right? So when you are someone who's holding it all together in a sense, right? There might not be a place for anger, right? Like I work with this couple who are, you know, two like really successful professionals, and he takes great value in caring for his family and taking care of his family. And there are some things that absolutely would equate with anger that he's not expressing as anger. And I'm curious about that because I do think it is a sense of there's no space for me to get angry about this because then I can't hold my family in the container they need to be held in.
Yeah, I can see that totally, right?
And I think that is beautiful moments in partnerships for the female to then say, it's okay. I'm okay. I got this. You express what you need to express.
Yeah.
Right? And when you go to the animal kingdom and look at that, that is a very primal experience, right? When the lion gets angry and protects or expresses, like, that's a primal instinct for them, right?
Totally. And it's done, I don't know the animal kingdom that well, and I don't know the psychology of a lion, but usually they get pissed off at an appropriate moment.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's not like it's not like it's Tuesday and your coffee machine broke down and so you're going to smash it. It's there's a moment where it's a justifiable piece.
And I
think if we can figure that out in life, it'll be a lot better.
And I think that's what's changed, is that there have been so many things that have shortened window of tolerance for people, made them more irritable, made it harder to control our anger, that many people have become snap cases and don't know how to get back to a healthy expression of it. Well, and this has to do with like too much stimulation, too much pressure, lack of coping skills, lack of grounding ability or ability to unwind at the end of a day without being bombarded. I do think it's related to higher stress lifestyles.
I do. And before, when I always go back to this, when we had to survive on the plains and farm, you might get mad, but you're also doing physical work all day. So you're burning it out. Like, yeah, exactly. It's fucking rock. Well, then you move the rock. Yeah. Right? Or you cut down the firewood for the night. So you're okay. But now it's like, everything's taken care of, and I've got this tension inside of me. What am I supposed to do with it?
Yes.
So I'll drink 8 beers and then be really pissed off, and then we've got a problem.
Totally, because all I want to do is put a lid on it because I have nowhere to get it out.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why I'm a big fan of when, especially like for my male clients, I'm like, you need a physical outlet. Like you need to go hard at the gym. You need to, you know, that competition of drop-in hockey or whatever. Like those are animal kingdom moments for men, right? Yep. So I really help couples try and maintain a little bit of those balances if they can. And then also accessing the restorative piece of things, right? That's your yin yoga, different things like that, right? That restorative piece. And you can see where in your life, boxing and things like that
boot
really
camp classes.
You. Yeah, and then you also have to look at testosterone levels and how that like hormonally is impacting things differently as well. So those would be some of the things. This makes me think about those rage rooms where you could actually go and rent out like a space at a business or whatever. And you could like take a baseball bat inside the room and smash the china cabinet, smash the lamps. You could just go to town on these things. We used to have one.
Fun.
Yeah, we used to have one in town, but it didn't last long. Cause I imagine like, again, how often do you have people going there? Like maybe
I'd go once a week. Just for the release? You mean like I just smashed a china cabinet?
Right.
And nobody cares?
Just go to a thrift store or take a bunch of, you know, but like I know my kids would probably get so much joy about having permission to smash a plate or a glass. Like,
oh yeah.
My son's in this stage right now where there's a kid in his class that bangs the desk. He will get mad and just bang the desk. And my son has started doing this and it scares us. It's like we'll be at the table and he does it. And I'm like, oh, it's so activating. And it's because it's happening to him in class and he doesn't like the way it feels either. But it's been this learned behavior now that like now he'll like if he gets frustrated, he'll start banging the wall. And I'm like, ugh. I know for him, he would love to go wild on something and be able to destroy it, because there's testing moments where like he'll throw something and he'll choose the plastic spoon instead of the metal spoon.
Yeah.
So he's still choosing wiser.
Yeah.
But this intensity is there.
And it's got to go somewhere. It has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, you just
And
snap.
he is a very physical kid. He's always moving, and he plays aggressive hockey. Like, he's going fast and hard regularly, and he still needs more physical outlet.
We do. Like, there's almost like never enough.
Yes.
Really. There isn't.
Yeah. I see that for sure. And then, one of my daughters is very similar to him in terms of that energy of getting it out. The other one uses her body, but she uses it differently. So she still plays all those same sports, and she's fire out there. But she will also have so much regulation from coloring, organizing, literally organizing like her desk or something, and activities like that.
Which is, there's a nice balance there.
Yeah,
which I think in the end, that's what we want to achieve, is that balance to help keep, like you say, the physical piece and then the psychological piece.
Absolutely, right? But being able, I always tell clients, like, after our session, go move your body, get your heart rate up, find a release for it that way, right?
Oh yeah, my
Screaming,
counseling days
raging.
are running days. My counseling days are running days. I come home, I go for a run.
Absolutely, right? And swearing actually helps too.
It does. I swear a lot.
Does.
All the time.
They say it helps with like pain management. Like people were able to withhold pain differently. I think it was the Mythbusters that did that. Yeah. So there is a place in your life for anger. It's about what your relationship was with it before. There we go. What your relationship is with it now. Do you give yourself permission to express anger? Too little, too much, just right? I have a lot of people who give themselves a lot of permission to express anger. I know I have been on various ends of the spectrum in that, depending on what scenario, relationship, or dynamic I'm in. But really looking at how can anger and my acceptance and ally with that emotion, how can that be of benefit and really help model to other people what appropriate responses to things are, right? Yeah, I often validate, like, that is an appropriate response to that violation. Yeah. Absolutely.
You can get pissed off.
Yeah. Or, does this punishment fit the crime? No. Yeah, What's underneath that? Okay, you need to cry instead of get angry. Okay, let's do that instead. Yep.
There you go, folks. That's our crash course in being pissed off.
Yeah, go fuck yourselves.
That's right. Till next week, I'm Jason.
That actually is a solution. It is.
Yeah. That's one of the best things in the world, is just like, why don't you just go fuck yourself?
Yeah, but when you actually do, you're re-regulating your nervous system. So that is one of the best pieces of advice.
Fantastic. Until next week, I'm Jason.
And I'm Jolene.
Yeah, go fuck yourself.